All right, so now time for our third story of today's Do Now. Next up on our roll call, we have Dynastudy. Dynastudy, that sounds like some kind of like...
That sounds like something out of Jurassic Park.
Yeah, exactly.
To be frank.
It does.
Like someone's pulling DNA out of an insect and making something they shouldn't.
I'm saying, if they didn't learn the first time, maybe 4 or 5 movies in, you would know better. In any case, Dynastudy actually is a curriculum company who is about to make some pretty good money. $9.2 million, which was awarded.
Yeah,
9.2. That might be enough to clone a dinosaur. Awarded to the company by a federal jury, which found that Houston Independent School District violated copyright and to a very large extent, actually. All right, so a federal jury awarded the small Texas curriculum company, Dynastudy, $9.2 million after finding dozens of Houston Independent School District employees repeatedly violated federal copyright laws by photocopying study guides created by the company. In 2013, the principal of Westside High School suggested making copies of a colorful study guide, and an English teacher actually pointed out that actually on the guide it says, do not make copies, or something to that effect. And they proceeded to make copies anyways, and these copies spread throughout the district, and some ended up online and spread throughout the nation. Now, the guides that were originally copied cost the school about $2,000, and Dynastudy sued for this infringement of their copyright, and jurors sided with the company, validating allegations that district staffers cropped out the company's logo, hid copyright violation warnings, and widely distributed and manipulated study guides to colleagues throughout the district. And again, some of that ended up online and went throughout the nation. So Houston Independent School District administrators said that all employees now participate in online training about copyright laws, and administrators participate in in-person training as well. Jeff, what are your thoughts about this?
Oh man, well, I have a bunch of thoughts, and I want to be careful in what I'm going to say, because I think the behavior that took place down in Houston with this particular case is problematic, right?
Yeah.
Like, you spend $2,000 on the curriculum and then you distribute tens of thousands or maybe millions of dollars worth of it. Like, that's wrong, and there should be some consequence. So it sounds like they got what was coming to them on that front. On the other hand, the fact that now staff in schools in Houston are going to have to sit through some mandated PD about copyright just irks me. The fact that principals and administrators who have no time whatsoever have to sit through some PD about copyright irks me even more. And frankly, this story is interesting and intriguing on its own, but I think the larger truth of the matter is that many of the large curriculum companies have kind of bullied education, have bullied the field of education and teachers and district staff into propping up their copyright rights over the good interests of the adults and the kids in the system that we're actually serving, right? So we have all these highly secure testing documents where nobody can see what kinds of items are going to be on the exam, and I'm like, this is crazy. Even on the LSAT for law school, you can go to Barnes and Noble and get a book that has a whole bunch of items that are just like the kinds of things you're going to see on the LSAT, but on the 3rd grade ELA exam, we can't see items on the test. Like, get out of here. This is ridiculous to me. So yeah, Houston, you messed up. You shouldn't have done what you did. And the larger story here is not that educators are ruining the profits of curriculum companies. These folks are getting paid, P-A-I-D, paid across the country. The testing industrial complex is real, and their copyrights are doing just fine. So maybe Dynastudy, needed to get a little retribution here, but I don't know. This is not how things play out on a larger scale.
Well, yeah, Dynastudy certainly isn't Scholastic or Discover Education or anything like that. Dynastudy is from what we read online, is a 2-person operation. So very small operation that
4.5 each, man. Not bad.
They're not in bad shape now.
We need somebody to infringe on our copyright.
I'm saying though.
So we could sue.
I'm saying though.
4.5.
Houston Independent School District. Feel free to upload this and crop out the all of the above, and we'll get back at you in time. But no, Dynastudy, I think, represents sort of the minority in terms of curriculum. And when we think about large curriculum that gets sold and millions of dollars coming in and it being across the nation. And I, as a classroom teacher, probably I venture to say, all classroom teachers have copied stuff that should not have been copied, especially in my earlier days where I was really struggling for content. There was one particular set of curriculum, I'm not gonna say the name, but it was like very expensive curriculum, and having the binder was like everything. And several student teachers, I was a student teacher at the time, got our hands on a copy and made copies and proceeded to use that to survive the first year or two of teaching. And that was a company that certainly wasn't missing our money. But in this case, sounds like Dynastudy being a much smaller company, and the employees in this case not just copying it for their own students, but also posting it online and allowing others to see it and others to copy, and starting this chain reaction. I could see why a juror in this case would see that as being just like too much, like enough is enough. Definitely you could, Google what copyright law says for educational purposes. There's a lot of fair use out there. There's a lot of stuff that we could do for educational purposes as long as we're not going above and beyond our classroom or trying to rely on it too much. But this was a case where these study guides, 36 different study guides eventually spread across 28 Texas school districts, as well as districts in Indiana, New Jersey, North Carolina. So Dynastudy had to do something. I mean, that's 36 study guides that I'm sure they carefully crafted and were reliant upon in terms of their business plans and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm
you
with
sound too.
I just feel like it's an interesting story, and it's kind of like
they use Post-it notes to cover up the
It's kind of
logo.
like if there was a story about like a bully that like got bullied one time on their way home from school, and that was the story. When the reality is, like, this industry bullies the people of every state in this country by just taking so much of our revenue, because they publish version 1 of the curriculum, then the next year there's version 2, or even if the curriculum stays the same, there's the workbooks in their consumables, so you got to buy new workbooks, right? Or they change the test in some way, so you got to buy new stuff to prepare for the test. And I'm not saying these people are evil, but I am saying that I would argue that curriculum for schools is actually something much more like pharmaceuticals than something like a pair of Reeboks from the store, right? And so the fact that they can extort such large amounts of money, I find in general to be problematic, right? Like, students have a right to learn, and we need curriculum in order for that right to learn to take place. So, I don't feel bad for these curriculum companies, man. I just don't. And I respect the law, and we should uphold the law, and I do not feel bad for these.
Already been flagged for these comments. So I hear you, and again, as a teacher, especially when it comes to multimedia, especially when it comes to videos and video clips, a lot of that stuff gets used without permission. But in this case, these teachers, like, they purposely cropped out logos, and like, if you're going to go through all that, that's just, that's a bridge too far, man.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
But in an ideal world, we wouldn't be short of materials to support teachers in educating our youth. Like, in the ideal world, you wouldn't have to scramble for resources and do this sort of stuff. Like, when I got that binder and felt like, wow, this is just everything. Like, I shouldn't have been in that mode of survival. There should have been so many materials for me to choose from and to use that, it shouldn't have even been a question. So ideally, we need to work towards a place where educators have anything and everything they need to do their best and not have to go to the copy machine with some Post-its to cover up logos and warnings and all that. So we'll end it at that. How about that?
Agreed. Respect the law, people.
Yeah, definitely.
Even though these companies don't deserve our sympathy. But respect the law.
All right. All right, folks.